In the American South, African Americans faced relentless hardship and systemic discrimination. The region's agrarian economy was built on a foundation of slavery and sharecropping, which perpetuated cycles of debt and poverty for black families. Racial segregation reinforced their second class citizenship, limiting their access to education, healthcare, and public accommodations. Political disenfranchisement through poll taxes and literacy tests left African Americans vulnerable to exploitation and racial violence, including lynchings that served only to terrorize and control black communities. This created an environment where black folks were looking to move. So by the time of World War One, there was already a growing movement among African Americans to leave the oppressive South and seek better opportunities north. But the
Sorry, just to confirm, when the old slave trade happened, was everyone was literally in the south. So everyone that came from Africa, the Caribbean islands, and other places, were they just in the south, mainly in the south? Please let me know. Was it scattered around? Was it just mainly in the south? Let me know.
war would accelerate this process, creating a labor shortage in northern factories due to the decreased European immigration. These factories were eager to hire African Americans from the South, and these opportunities combined with the realities of Jim Crow laws in the South prompted many to consider moving north. Papers like the Chicago Defender played a key role in spreading the word about these opportunities, portraying the North as the promised land of possibilities. Families shared stories through informal network, encouraging others to make the journey. From about 1910 to around 1930, the first migration significantly changed America's urban landscape. Thousands of African American families moved north seeking better chance at life. Railroads like the Illinois Central Railroad were vital routes for travelers connecting southern states like Louisiana with northern cities like Chicago. Detroit saw its black population swell from just 6,000 to over 120,000 during this time period, mirroring the growth in northern cities like New York, Philadelphia, and Cleveland. And although the journey north was challenging and often took stages, these migrants would lay the roots that would reshape the cultural and social landscape in those areas. Organizations like the NAACP and leaders like Robert Abbott were essential to helping black migrants navigate the racial barriers and find footing in these northern cities. However, their arrival brought mixed reactions from the established black communities who were wary of more newcomers and how they might.
Do you know one thing I've realized since I've started doing all these reactions about American history? I'm always getting mixed comments. People always saying, "Oh, Eddie, you don't know what's going on down here. You never understand." Yes, I don't. People say, "Oh, you live such a cushy lifestyle in the UK. You don't experience racism." Yes. Well, I'm the kind of person that the way I'm wired is I don't, if something is racist towards me, I don't see it. Like I don't let like I'm the kind of person that I see the good in people. So even if you're being racist towards me, I'm the kind of person that I'll still be like I'll be like smiling in front of you that you start thinking, oh God, don't let me be ignorant or something like that. So I'm not saying, so there's been times where I'll be like, oh, I don't know what happened here. Let's just be nice to each other. People are like, nah, my great grandparents went through. Yes, yes, they did. And that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. But what I've learned is that you being evil to the other race because of what your great grandparents did, what your great grandparents went through, is not gonna help. It's not gonna help solve the issue. Do you know what I mean? Again, I'm gonna get a comment again, which I'm happy to debate. I'm happy to debate because I'm not going through what you guys are going through, so I would probably never fully understand. But what I know growing up is be nice to your neighbors, regardless of the race. Don't judge people by the color of their skin. Judge them by the content of their character. You might not agree with me, but that's what I think. What happened in the past, absolutely terrible. And our aim is to be able to teach our kids that, look, this is what happened. And we do not want this to happen again, ever, ever again. And not hate each other. Some people just want to spread hate. And that's good for you. But for me, I would never spread hate on this channel. Never. Everyone is welcome. You're black, white, Asian, whoever you are, you're always welcome on this channel. You have a voice, and I'm not gonna discriminate against you. Sorry, I'm not even sorry. That's who I am. I don't care. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not discriminating against anyone. I don't care. Sorry.
Affect the progress that they had achieved, who were wary of more newcomers and how they might affect the progress that they had achieved. Although the North promised industrial jobs, African Americans face severe discrimination in the workplace. They were commonly given low paying jobs with dangerous conditions, and many of the factories hired them last or paid them less than their white counterparts. And this unfair treatment made it hard for Black families to escape the poverty that they had left in the South. Also, housing discrimination was a major issue. Practices like redlining prevented African Americans from buying homes in many neighborhoods, forcing them into overcrowded urban areas with poor living conditions. These areas often underfunded the schools and limited access to social services, making life even more difficult. Additionally, as Black migrants moved into northern cities, they sometimes faced hostilities from the existing residents who saw them as competition for jobs and housing. This led to racial tensions and occasionally violent conflicts that further isolated the Black community. And many migrants also experienced cultural dislocation, leaving behind their close-knit communities in the South, often led to feelings of loneliness in northern cities where life was faster.
It's crazy. Like that's happening today. Like sometimes because like my parents they moved to so my dad and mom moved to Ireland in the late 90s, and you can tell like the older they get, they spend a lot of time and they go back to Nigeria. So I'm Nigerian, so they go back to Nigeria like 4 or 5 times a year, and you can tell the way they feel when they're in Nigeria. They're more themselves. They're very open. They're very more. When I hear that, it's more like they love being. Don't get me wrong. They've lived in England, Ireland for like the last 25, 30 years, but there's no place like home, a place where you grew up, a place where you know everything, a place where everyone looks like you. You might, no matter, people, I feel like you have to go through it to understand. Do you know what I mean? So the thing is like, for my mom, for instance, when she's in Nigeria, she's going everywhere. She's seeing everyone. In Ireland, she's very much more like relaxed. She's staying at home. Let me know if you guys have immigrant parents. Is it the same for you guys as well? Do you guys experience that? That your parents are very different. The way they act is very different when they're in Europe or America than when they are in the Caribbean islands or in Africa. Let me know.
Pace and more unfamiliar. And this shift contributed to stress and mental health challenges that was only made worse by the discrimination they were facing. Back in the South, the communities there also suffered from the loss of so many people. With fewer workers and leaders, these areas struggled financially and found it harder to fight for their own civil rights and better living conditions. And finally, health conditions were worsened for those who moved to the North. The stress of adapting to city life combined with poor living conditions and a lack of access to health care led to higher rates of diseases like hypertension and heart disease, and northern cities often didn't have the public health infrastructure to support this growing Black population. Yet, amidst these challenges, Black migrants demonstrated remarkable resilience and creativity. These overcrowded communities would gradually transform into vibrant cultural hubs. Harlem, for example, became the epicenter of the Harlem Renaissance during the 1920s. This cultural movement was fueled by the Great Migration, and it saw an explosion of Black art, music, and literature blending Southern blues with Northern urban sounds, and became a redefining genre of the era. Talented musicians like Duke Ellington would thrive in Harlem's lively club scene. Writers like Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston addressed themes of Black identity, racial justice through their work. Visual artists like Aaron Douglas and Jacob Lawrence vividly portrayed the Black experience on a visual medium, using African motifs and depicting the Great Migration and urban life. Yet, the momentum of the first Great Migration was significantly slowed by the onset of the Great Depression in 1929. But even as economic opportunities declined, many Black Americans in the North still managed to establish an economic stability. So, in the ashes of the first migration, the second Great Migration, which would span from around 1940 to 1970, which was driven by World War II and the civil rights movement. But unlike the first migration, this saw many Southern blacks turn westward to cities like Los Angeles, Oakland, and Seattle. World War II created a demand for industrial labor as Franklin Delano Roosevelt Executive Order 8802 prohibited discrimination in defense industries. This opened up job opportunities for Black Americans in factories and shipyards, especially since fewer European migrants had entered the United States. As a result, West Coast cities became bustling centers of activity. California was particularly attractive due to its economic opportunities and its reputation for being more racially tolerant. Many were drawn by the California dream, which promised upward mobility through home ownership and entrepreneurship. As Black Americans,
Wait, Sacramento is the capital of California. What? I thought it was Los Angeles. Obviously, you can see that Sacramento. I thought it was Los Angeles. I'm learning so much. God.
moved to these western cities. They encountered both opportunities and the same difficulties that they had faced in places like Chicago, Detroit, and New York. They faced housing and job discrimination due to overcrowding, coupled with the rise of suburbs and white flight. City centers experienced defunded schools, aging infrastructure, and a new type of segregation. Despite these challenges, African Americans created strong communities and opened businesses, churches, and social organizations. They transformed these once predominantly white neighborhoods into thriving Black communities. The Great Migration represents one of the most monumental periods in American history, symbolizing a profound transformation of this nation's cultural, social, and political landscapes. In the short term, Black people were better off economically in leaving the South for better opportunities north. Even with the discrimination that they faced, the South was built on racial discrimination and offered them limited opportunities for growth. Cities in the North offered industrial jobs with much better pay than they would have ever made as a sharecropper or any other manual labor job in the South. And this economic improvement allowed African Americans to enjoy a better standard of living with access to better housing, education, and healthcare. Additionally, the migration came with a sense of hope and empowerment as these communities established themselves in these new areas and later became cultural centers. Culturally, the Great Migration led to a flourishing of Black arts and intellectual movements, such as the Harlem Renaissance we talked about earlier. This movement happened thanks to the concentration of Black artists and thinkers in New York. It showcased important works of literature, music, and art that defied racial stereotypes and celebrated Black identity, deeply changing American culture. These developments changed how African Americans were perceived within their communities and within the larger society as a whole, because there was a time prior to the 20th century where people thought that African Americans could not produce art. Long term, the migration had important political effects. The demographic shift led to a change in the political landscape as African Americans gained more influence in those urban areas. African Americans started moving from historically Republican ties, looking for leaders who understood their needs. And this shift saw figures like Carl Stokes in Cleveland, Richard Hatchett in Indiana, becoming Black mayors and highlighting the power of political engagement. But the Great Migration's most lasting impact was on the civil rights movement. As these populations grew, so did their voice, leading to more political representation and advocacy works. This would set the stage for the civil rights movement as African Americans organized to fight for equal rights and justice. The migration paved the way for future generations to pursue better education and career opportunities. By settling in areas that had better access to schools and colleges, Black families were able to break down the cycle of poverty that had been entrenched in the South, leading to better upward mobility, allowing future generations to enter professional fields that had once been out of reach. In the end, the Great Migration is a testament to courage and resilience in the unyielding pursuit of personal freedoms. It reshaped America's demographic, changed the political landscape, and seeded vital movements that would demand and secure Black civil rights. Even today, the legacy endures, as before the 20th century, over 90% of African Americans lived in the South, and by the end of the century, it was less than 40%. This is a powerful reminder of the legacy of a journey that sought to redefine what it meant to carry out the American dream. Thank you. This has been One Mike Black.
That was something. That was again because I don't live in America. I've got some family. I've got some like cousins, but like I'm not too close to them that lives over there. So if you have great grandparents that live in America that used to live in the South, you must have heard so many stories, and I do understand. But I would never be able to be in your shoes to get your anger, how you feel towards other people because of what happened to your great grandparents. I feel like I would never understand. But what I would say is that doesn't mean you should be, hate a whole race of people because of that. I just want to spread love. I just want to spread love as much as possible. Yeah, and I feel like most people that are on this channel, it's also about love. It's about us learning about each other's culture. And so you see me whenever I travel, I'm always in Scotland exploring. And again, you would have think that say a place like Scotland, Ireland would be like the most racist places. But I'm always welcome with open hand because just spread love, laughter. I'm always smiling. But yeah, let's make our culture, our community, an amazing place. Just keep going. Where people in the 20s and the 1930s, they suffered, so we don't have to suffer now. They've done so much, so we don't have to do all this stuff. So yeah, let's love each other, please. Just spread love. Let's not spread hate, please. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the comments. If you guys want to see more stuff like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys very soon. Bye bye.